back to the Stick 'em Up podcast. Burundi, we got a couple of different things we're going to talk about on this episode regarding the NHL. To kick it off here, this is a very broad thing regarding it, but just it are you surprised at how quickly the standings can change in the NHL?
No,
Because there
no.
are a couple of teams.
There's so many competitive teams now, right? Like,
There really
and
are.
it depends, because if you're talking about, the one I see a lot of people talking about is like Winnipeg, and how, they're kind of, people are shocked that like they're not first alone in the standings despite the start of the year, but
They're
I mean
second in their division.
they've lost 4 out of their last 5. Their only win coming against Minnesota. So no, it's so hard, right? Unless you're constantly just like kind of winning nonstop, it's hard to just maintain your place that you're in.
Yeah, it really is crazy because what were the Jets? 15-1 at one
Yeah.
point, and now they're 18-7. They are second in the Central Division. They're tied for points with the Wild, but the Wild actually have a game in hand on them.
Yeah.
And it's crazy that the Wild are the one that overtook them, because currently the Jets are on a 3-game losing streak, but like you said, their last win came against the Wild. So it really is crazy. Like, no matter what kind of win streak you go on, the other top teams in the league are still going to be winning, 7 of every 10 games ish. And,
Yeah.
a single 3-4 game losing streak, pretty much no matter where you are in the standings, you're still going to probably end up dropping.
Mm-hmm.
And, we've also seen that over in the Metro Division. The Capitals are on a 4-game win streak, a couple losses from the Devils, 5-4-1 in the last 10 for the Hurricanes, and all of a sudden the Caps are leading the Metro Division.
Not only that, they're top of the East.
Yeah.
Not even just their own division, the entire conference. They're ahead of everyone's, and they continue to just have an incredible season right now. Everything is going right for them. Nowhere near as labeled as a boring team like people were saying last year when it came to Washington. They're actually an exciting team, and especially once Ovi comes back, the team hasn't taken a step back really without, like, since Ovechkin got injured, which is huge for them, because I think that was a lot of people's concern with Washington is, can the team continue to win games without Ovechkin? They're on a 4-game win streak currently. They're averaging the most goals per game out of any team in the league, and they've got the number 1 shooting percentage among all teams in the league. So,
yeah,
if you're a Washington fan, it's an exciting time right now because the team is on a roll.
Yeah, and a lot of people did not see this coming. I know neither of us did. I think we both had them solidly 7th in the Metro in our preseason rankings, and
I think I had them 6th. I think I had them above Philly.
I mean, that makes sense.
I could be wrong, but
Philadelphia, who is tied with the Rangers currently in the standings, like, there's a lot. Just looking at the standings, there's a lot of very strange outliers like that.
Okay, man, I did have them 7th. I had the Flyers above.
Yeah, that Tortorella effect. But yeah, and I do imagine a lot of people look at the shooting percentage, like you said specifically. People love to look at shooting percentage and be like, that's an indicator that, that's going to regress to the mean and they're going to stop scoring at this rate. But, there's, you don't always fluke yourself into a high shooting percentage either. So, right, they're playing good defense on top of their offense. So right now they're going to be, they're a team that you're hard pressed to beat.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I mean, everything's just going right for them, and especially considering, it was like, even if they were gonna kind of be in that, they almost actually kind of remind me of Vancouver last year. Talking about Vancouver going into last season, it was, they've got a team, and it was basically kind of almost, you know, if they're going to make the playoffs, it's probably, going to be a wild card spot just based on the teams in front of them. And, uh, just not entirely, we weren't entirely sure the direction the Canucks were exactly going in. And then sure enough, they just had this phenomenal year and they finished top of their division. Unfortunately, injuries in the playoffs for them, but what can you do on that? That's basically what Washington is right now. If they were going to make the playoffs, it was going to be, fighting for a wild card spot. Especially tough with how good the Atlantic Division was set to be prior to the season. Obviously, isn't going that way. But hey, Washington not only top of their division, top of their conference. They've got some, especially over New Jersey. They've got some games in hand, which they can, if they win those, they can continue to just kind of build up their lead and really set themselves up to be in a great spot whenever Ovechkin comes back. We don't know the exact kind of timeline. I believe they said he was back on the ice. I don't know if he's actually a full participant in practice or anything, but I believe I did see that he is on the ice at least again, which is good news for
Yeah, I assume he's
for
at least
Washington.
in a no contact jersey
Yeah,
for the
he would
moment,
have to be
but
right now, I think.
like he doesn't have to rush back now. Like the team is doing so well, he doesn't have to hurry back and be like, I gotta get back in there and make sure we can win games to make the playoffs. Like they're cruising right now. He can take his time, and maybe if that means he takes an extra game, or he waits for a home game instead of an away game,
Yeah.
like he can come back completely 100%, which will be massive for the Caps.
Yeah, and it's got to be such a relief as well for Ovechkin, especially going down, and if the team just completely cratered, and then if they put themselves in a bad spot, then that's puts more pressure on Ovi to try and come back sooner and all these other things. But now he can kind of just relax a bit and really focus on making sure he's healed up and ready to go because the team keeps winning. So there's not that unnecessary pressure of get back now.
Yeah, and we've seen that in the past few years from a couple of teams. The big one being Edmonton. We definitely saw when McDavid was injured. It was either 1 or 2 seasons ago, and they were going on a huge losing streak relatively early in the year, and he was like, he just like had to rush back from injury because like if McDavid's not out there, Edmonton wasn't winning the games.
Yeah, that was last year, early on in the season last year. Hey, and look at Edmonton. They ended up eventually find themselves back in the playoff mix, and then we know the rest of that story for them last year. Was there anything else you wanted to touch on in the standings here before we kind of hop into the news, latest news around
Uh,
the league?
no, I just kind of wanted to point out some of those, namely the Jets and the Capitals were two that very much stood out to me. Like the fact that the Wild have already overtaken the Jets, uh, like they're just having an incredible year as well, and like 24 games in, they have 58 goals against. Like, bro, no teams they can't score on Minnesota.
And they're already buyers. They're already making moves, as we're about to get into. Like they're in a good spot right now. They're in a very good spot again. Going back to kind of the big thing surrounding the Minnesota Wild is not only they're doing really good right now, but they have a lot of money that's going to be opening up in the offseason. So this team is already on the right track, and it's only going to become a lot bigger and wide open for them to make some more moves and really improve this team in the offseason as well.
Yeah. Yeah,
They're in a
the fact
really
that they'll
good
be
spot.
that much better next year, or at least be able to buy in the off season on top of, a lot of their young guys getting better. Like
Yeah.
I mean, they're at the top of the standings, right? So they're already in contention for it, but uh like going into next season, they could easily be a favorite for the President's Trophy, which I don't remember ever thinking that about the Minnesota Wild. So
Yeah, no.
that's pretty cool for them.
And it makes them a more desirable destination for free agents as well.
Yeah. Yeah, we haven't
Them
really
having
seen Minnesota
the
as a
ability to,
destination that
yeah,
people want.
they have the ability to you know spend money because they're going to have lots available there, and obviously they're probably going to try and go right up to the cap because you're a contending team. You've got the talent right now, so you should be going all in, especially with the trade we're going to be talking about here in a sec. Uh, yeah, if you're a good team, players are more inclined to want to go and play there. So it's the perfect time for the Wild to really be heating up.
Yeah, and like you said, they just made a trade the other day. Uh, Minnesota acquired David Jiricek, which I kind of think both of us have Minnesota as one of our two teams that we thought he
Yeah,
might go to. Yeah, look at us go. Uh, David Jiricek to the Minnesota Wild, uh, along with a fifth round pick in 2025 for Damon Hunt, a defensive prospect, I believe, a 2025 first, a 2027 second, and a 2026 third and fourth. Uh, that's, I mean, they got Juracek and they didn't really have to give up any roster players.
yeah, no, they didn't, and I know there is a condition on the first round pick going to Columbus. I can't find anywhere what the condition is because unfortunately we don't have cap friendly anymore, and on Twitter just wasn't able to find it. My assumption is it's probably just like top 5 protected or top 10 protected or something, just kind of insurance in case Minnesota drastically falls off. They have that pick. Uh, but the way the Wild are going right now, I don't expect them to drop that far. So Columbus should be getting a 2025 first here. And for whatever reason, if everything falls apart in Minnesota, my assumption would be the first would just transfer to next year.
Yeah, I would imagine so. I'll see if I can do a small amount of digging, but I can't imagine I can find it if you couldn't.
Yeah,
There's a good.
I
It's a
got
new trade. There's a good chance it's just not out there yet. But
yeah. I got no clue. I got no
because
clue what
because
it
most of
is
the
for
teams
sure.
don't normally say what the conditions are, really, right? Like usually it's Elliot Friedman or one of these insiders. When they tweet out the trade, they'll include it, and then it gets put on cap wages or cap friendly or whatever, and people just kind of
Yeah.
know it from there. But like if these insiders don't get it, like I don't think it's usually included in any like official releases for
So
teams.
I found it. It's on Puckpedia. It is a long process to get down to where it is, but the condition is it is just top 5 protected. So not even top 10, just top 5.
Oh, okay.
So it's all pretty safe to assume that the first round pick will be going to Columbus, as I don't see Minnesota finishing with a top 5 pick. But crazier things have happened before. What are your initial thoughts on this
Uh,
deal?
I I mean, I definitely love it for Minnesota. Like David Jiricek is going to be a solid defenseman in the NHL. Um, I don't know much about Damon Hunt, who they gave up, but at the very least, he's not on their roster. Like he's not. They legitimately did not get any worse on the ice for what they've been doing this season. And at 16-4-4, they've been dominant this year. So the fact that they just add Juracek without losing anything is going to be huge for them. Um, you know, give up a first rounder, a second rounder, a third and a fourth. Like it, they're, you know, I love these kinds of trades for teams because Juracek is so much more than a draft pick now. Like we know he's like upwards of 90% going to be not just playing in the NHL, but great in the NHL. Uh, that first rounder, there's a very good chance it just becomes nothing. Like 40% of first round draft picks don't even play in the NHL, less alone make it big. So, especially since that's not even going to be a high up pick, I absolutely love this for the Wild. Columbus, I mean, you get quite a few swings with those picks. You get 4 different ones, but only one first. I'm not sure what Damon Hunt projects to be, but
He's 22 years old, former third round pick. Decent numbers in the AHL. Really, kind of hasn't gotten a long enough stint to kind of prove himself at the NHL level. I think the door's wide open for maybe him to get that opportunity with Columbus. Uh, but yeah, it's not like he's a home run prospect or a guy that is, projects to, be a long term guy in the league. I think there's still the opportunity for that, but uh, yeah, kind of just an unknown right now. That'll be up to Columbus to kind of uh, see if it can work there, if he can be a guy for him. Maybe not. The biggest part for Columbus was getting draft picks in the end. It looks like, and
Yeah.
there was rumors that they maybe wanted to try and get an impact player now that they could slot in. Obviously, it's not the route they went with. They got draft picks. It's I
Like
mean,
I
it's
would
it's nice getting, a first round. Like the second round pick isn't until 2027. The third and fourth is 2026. So it's just not great value for a guy you just kind of recently drafted at 6 overall. I'm gonna be honest. Uh,
and there was a lot of people who wanted him. Like there was so much like smoke around it that I feel like they could have driven up the price more. Like I would give this like an A minus for Minnesota. Like I think like somewhere in that area because like this is great for them, and you know you don't need any of the parts you gave up. Uh, for Columbus, like I mean, how long do they want to push off this rebuild? Is that 2025 first? Is how soon is that going to help? That guy's going to be at least 16th overall, like somewhere from 16 to 32.
yeah,
Like
it's probably gonna be an early to mid 2020s, I would say.
yeah, so that guy's probably not playing for at least 3 years from now, 2 years from when he's drafted. Like
Yeah.
it's
It's just not great value for a guy you drafted 6 overall. It's
yeah,
really not. Like, I
very
understand
recent.
it, they kinda put themselves in that position where you had to move them. I I'm assuming this is the best offer they got.
That just seems crazy though. Like I don't know. I
Yeah,
would have liked any of those mock trades with any other blue chip prospect thrown in there.
yeah.
Like it,
But so it is
anything
very telling
involving
that
Yakimchuk, Zegras, like any other guy that has a bit more promise and is a bit further along. Because
it is very telling, though, that because they didn't get that, that means that no team was willing to do that. So I feel like if
well,
there was a
maybe
team out there that had, one of their stud prospects on the table, I think Columbus would have went that route. But again, maybe not because they're kind of under a new regime now. Maybe they just want to stock up on some draft picks and kind of draft their own guys. I get that, but
yeah.
when you're
Don
trading a guy
Waddell's
like
the new
Jiricek,
GM.
I don't know, for what's going to be a late first round pick is kind of your biggest piece of value coming in. I don't love that. Again, it's impossible to tell, whether it's a bad trade for Columbus or not yet. It's going to be years before these draft picks pan out, but yeah, I really really
But that's
like this
part of why
decision.
it's rough, right? Like
Yeah,
they've already been rebuilding for you know quite a few years now, and they gotta surround them with good players. And
mhm.
yeah, this just doesn't do that in really any form.
But I will say, in Columbus's defense, for Columbus fans, there's been trades we've seen in the past where we're talking about, we're like, man, that team kind of got fleeced, like it was a bad deal for them. But then you see what those draft picks have turned into or are turning into, and you're like, shit, that they actually won that deal in the end, or now it's an even deal. Um,
I suppose.
Either way, I guess the door's open for it to be a good trade for Columbus, regardless of whether those draft picks those draft picks could turn into studs. This deal is still good for Minnesota. Minnesota still comes
Minnesota,
out,
yeah,
out as
Minnesota
winners.
doesn't care if Columbus drafts a David Pastrnak type guy that they get at like 25th overall with their pick, I mean, they don't really care. They got Jiricek out of it.
Yeah.
Like it's one of those things where even if they do get draft insanely well with it, I would still say this is a maybe not necessarily a bad trade, but it's definitely not very good trade for Columbus. You can make up for it with good drafting, but like, if they really hit on the guy with their 4th rounder in 2026, that doesn't make this trade better. That just means they have good drafting kind of thing,
Yeah.
which, good drafting can cover up bad trades, which is very nice, but it's hard to get out of a rebuild very quickly when you aren't making smart trades.
Yeah. It definitely is a step
Like,
back for Columbus.
we heard like 8 teams were in on this guy. I can't even wrap my head around the idea that this is the best that they had out there. And they had only been talking like the trade talks ramped up, but it had only been really seriously being talked about for 4 or 5 days. Like you could have, like Jiricek's going to be good. He can't force himself out. He's under contract. You could have held him for another week or two.
Yeah,
and
but he
and got
wasn't
the best
playing,
offer.
and it's sometimes for the team it's easier to just kind of get it done and over with, so you can start kind of just moving on as a team and not having this kind of over looming
I don't
thing.
think Sean Monahan and the boys care too much about the Jiricek thing going on when he's not on the team. Like it's not affecting that.
No, but just the
And
inner
I'm not
core of
saying keep him for
your
the year.
management and coaches. And
Yeah, but like I don't know. I don't think it was near
I
bad
don't
enough
think
where they
holding on
had
to him
to.
for an extra week it was going to improve offers. I think,
I mean, they
they kind
had
of
no
let teams
offers 7
know.
days ago.
Yeah, they did.
Like from
As
like a
soon as he
couple.
was
I don't think
available, teams
Minnesota.
were
I don't
putting
think
in
Minnesota
offers.
was in on it a week ago. They were one of the later teams in. Like
No, they were in from the start. It just wasn't reported that they had a big offer on the table. Like the only kind of news we got is teams that were in, and that it was Nashville and Montreal that at the time had the best offers on the table. What those offers were, no clue. Uh,
yeah,
but I think when you've got that many teams kind of in the mix, I think most teams kind of just put their offer in and be like, "This is the best we can do." You know, like if you're a Minnesota and Columbus holds on to him for an extra 2 weeks, are you gonna be like, all right, we'll throw in, another second? Or what if we remove all the first round, all the picks except the first, but we'll throw in Marco Rossi? Like most teams kind of will just throw in their offer and be like, this is, really the best we can do. If you want it, let us know. If you go with another team, I understand, but not many teams would start adding on, the longer Columbus held on to him.
I think they could have got at least a bit more though. Like
But what more? Like what?
you turn that 4th rounder into another 2nd rounder or something, right? Like even if that happens, a 1st, 2 seconds, and a 3rd, and Damon Hunt for Jiricek, that's still a really good deal for Minnesota. They'd
But
still take that in a heartbeat.
if not one single team did it,
No, but I think
there's
teams would have if they held out a bit longer. But they clearly just wanted to get out from under it. Very similar to Nashville moving Askarov. Like they didn't want to wait, and
yeah.
I think it cost them a little bit of a
I
value monetary trade.
I
But
don't think so. I still believe that all the teams kind of threw in their offers, and maybe there was a sweetener here and there, but I don't think too many teams would have made drastic moves the longer Columbus held on to him.
it's
But I
hard to
mean,
believe that
you
this
never
is the
know.
most
But
he's worth.
I mean, yeah.
Because we listed like damn near a quarter of the league was in on him.
Mhm.
But
But again, like not many teams had the the picks and whatnot to make the move.
I guess there's a lot of teams out there that
Because a
want
lot
good
of teams
players,
that are
but they don't want to
missing their
trade any picks.
firsts and Yeah, and then there is also teams, the New York Rangers, for example, that
Yeah,
have a good team but refuse to, even the Oilers. Like in the time, actually, I just want to make sure. Oh, they did give up a first for Henrique, didn't they?
they're crazy.
Like Edmonton has almost traded more first round picks to get first round picks than they have for actual players in the Connor McDavid era.
Yeah,
So Edmonton's another team where, yeah, even if they wanted your check, they're probably not gonna part with a first.
yeah. I think I do wonder how much GMs value first round picks when they're coming from those other teams. Like, because like it's all shiny, it's cool, I'm getting a first round pick back, but if it's one of those teams where you're basically guaranteed picking 20 or later, how you know how much different is that
I will say though,
from an average team second rounder?
I don't entirely hate it for Columbus due to the possibilities that are open for them. Because kind of the way it's looking like Columbus, we'll wrap this up and move on from Columbus here in a sec. But like, if Columbus finishes, with the 7th to 5th overall pick, right? Like, if I'm Columbus, say if you have the 6th overall pick, I would go to the teams picking 3 and 4, and I'd be like, hey, 6 overall pick, and say Minnesota ends up with the 20th. I'll give you 6 and 20 for the 3rd or 4th overall, and then you can move up potentially. And because again, in this draft, like in my opinion, and in a lot of others, it's kind of there's like a clear top 4.
Yeah.
Who goes first, who goes 4th. That's still kind of to be determined. Hagen's probably goes 1, but you never know. But you could basically use that extra first and say, you know what, rather than getting a good first round, like a good player at 6 and a good player at 20, let's go and let's get one of the 4 kind of like superstar players that are available in this draft, and
Right.
then really kind of get going. And if they do something like that, you know what, I like it for Columbus then, because Columbus was able to capitalize on that pick and in moving it to move up. And so either way, Minnesota is a slam dunk winner in this. Columbus, kind of to be determined. The return is underwhelming. I'm just curious to see what they kind of do.
Yeah.
With these picks, how many of them do they actually use? Do they, kind of trade them? Like the 3rd and 4th probably aren't going to be anything. The second rounder maybe is till 2027.
Yeah.
And Damon Hunt, I don't know. Maybe they're really high on him. I don't really know much about him, but
Yeah,
like his
Don
numbers
Waddell had
in
a
the
lot of good
AHL
things
aren't
to
bad.
say about him.
Yeah,
Don Waddell seemed very excited. I don't know if he, is hopeful that he's going to be good, or if he genuinely thinks it. Like, maybe it's just one of those things GMs kind of have to say when you trade for a guy. But
yeah.
he seems pretty excited for him coming in. So
You got to imagine they're on him if he's like kind of the one player that they're getting back in this deal. You got to feel like at least somewhat that they are pretty high on this guy.
yeah,
And again, like his AHL numbers are solid. I just don't know how well it's going to translate the NHL level.
yeah,
That kind of just remains to be seen yet. So, good for Minnesota though. Good for them on being
really
buyers.
nice work for them.
The start of them going all in. It looks like good time to be a Minnesota Wild fan.
Yeah, very good for them. Do you want to talk about the big tank in Vancouver?
The big tank in Vancouver, Kevin Lankinen, last night became the first goaltender in NHL history to win their first 10 road games to start the season.
That's wild. Like,
I'm going to put my hands up and say I was right. I'm going to give myself a pat on the back because I said he is the guy in Vancouver. You said he wasn't. You said Shelovs was the guy. And I said, no. I said Kevin Lankinen is the real deal. He's carrying this team right now without Thatcher Demko. Yeah.
Hey,
He's
I
been, dude.
will.
He's been so good this season.
He's
I don't
been
even.
really good.
And yeah. Where'd he come from? Was it Nashville? I think it was
Nat.
Nashville.
I believe he came over from Nashville, and I think before that he was with Chicago.
You would be correct. Yep. Tears with Chicago. Tears with Nashville. He's already. Oh no, never mind. He's only 5 off from his career high in wins, which he did in his first year. Chicago 17. He's already at 12 wins in 17 games. 2 shutouts, a 909 save percentage, and a 265 goals against.
Yeah, he's been really solid for them, and I mean, like, I don't know what's crazier, the fact that no goalie has ever in NHL history won their first 10 road games to start a season, or the fact that all like basic not only that he's won them, but the fact that Kevin Lankinen's played 10 away games, even
Out
like
of 17.
he's got 17 games this year, and 10 of them are on the road, and he's won them all. Like,
Yeah. So that would mean his record at home would be 2 wins, 3 losses, 2 overtime losses. So he's a baller on the road, but
he's
there's
a road warrior.
a couple more losses than wins at home. He's been exactly what the Canucks needed, especially with Demko. Uh, with the injury, unsure of when he'll be back. The Canucks were kind of in a spot where you didn't need a goalie. I mean, Kevin Lankin has gone out and exceeded everyone's expectation. He's played great, but they just needed a goalie that could kind of keep them in the mix until Demko comes back. And thankfully, it's gone even better than they thought. Lankin has helped kind of keep them not only just in playoff contention, but like they're still sitting third in the Pacific, 2 games less played than Vegas and LA above them. They're still 3 points above the Avs, who are just outside of a wild card spot. Like they're sitting in a really good spot right now in terms of the standings and in regards to how many games they've played.
Yeah, like the fact that they've been doing it without Demko is great. I mean, they obviously have a very good roster that has finally come out as like this elite roster that we've at least it feels like I've been waiting like 4 years for them to be good.
Mhm.
And they finally broke out last year, and yeah, oh man, looking at this West conference is just crazy. Like there's only 3 teams from the Central in. How did we end up with 5 teams from the Pacific currently in the playoffs? The Avs are on the outside looking in. Like obviously there's plenty of games to be played left, but I did not
Mhm.
by American Thanksgiving, I did not have the Flames being in the playoffs while on a 4-game losing streak over the Avalanche. That was not on my bingo card.
Yeah, no, really hasn't. Um, what was it? Yeah. I mean, Calgary. I'm unsure what to think of Calgary. Like, got off to a hot start. They have kind of cooled down a bit, but again, like they're keeping in it still. They're tied with the Oilers. They're 2 points above the Avs. Like they're right in the mix with these teams.
Yeah,
Like
they're
you kind of a lot of people kind of expected Calgary to be down with, San Jose, Seattle, Anaheim, kind of those teams. Nashville, we thought was going to be up higher and kind of creating some chaos in the Central and moving one of the big 3 down into a wild card. Minnesota's kind of taking care of that role for them instead. Yeah, it's
it's
it's a battle. It's a battle right now in the West. Like you look at how many teams are all right in there with each other.
yeah. And it's nice for the Flames to be doing good, but like honestly, I feel like right now is like one of the best times I've ever seen in the NHL to going into a rebuild. Like
Yeah.
like the Blackhawks are going to be bad for a few more years, but like the Sharks are looking to come out of this rebuild. The Ducks are looking to come out of this rebuild. Like the Canadians, they should be out of it at this point. They're just in an Atlantic division where they've got 3 teams directly ahead of them that are all a year or two ahead in their rebuilds. Like the Blue Jackets, they're sure trying to get out of the rebuild. Things have been rough for them, but
Blue
like
Jackets only 2 points out.
that's the thing. Like all these teams are so close. Like we say, the Flames are the playoff spot. We expected them to be down with guys like the Ducks and the Sharks, both teams that are 5 points away from them in the standings.
Yeah.
Like the Ducks and Sharks are both 3 points apiece back from the Avalanche
Yeah.
in December. Like that's crazy. There's no the Red Wings in what was it 18-19, the Sharks last year. We're not getting a team like that this year that is
Yeah,
just
no.
falling off a cliff. We're not even going to have a team that's like the Blackhawks last year, who are still pretty damn bad. Like at this rate, like no team is going to be very far behind the rest of the pack.
Yeah. Because all these teams, they all got something now at least. There's no team that doesn't kind of have at least that one piece of the
Yeah.
puzzle that they're already kind of starting to build around. Yeah, yeah. I don't. Yeah, there's not gonna be a team that's like definitively like the worst team in the league. Like
A lot of years you can be
there's
like,
gonna be some bad teams, but I don't think there's gonna be one team that's like, oh, that's the worst team there is,
yeah,
because
yeah, this year
there's
there's going to be
lots
like
of
a whole
teams.
tier of
Yeah,
teams at the bottom. Like, and there's going to be like 4 or 5 of them in there.
yeah.
And
Like if you're looking at like projecting what the bottom three is, it's just gonna kind of be a repeat of where we're at, just because again teams are still coming out of it, like your Chicago's, your San Jose's, probably Anaheim, I think still. Um, they're still not fully coming out of it. They're on the right track, but again, you just need like that one or two more pieces. Uh, you know, and you're also just kind of waiting for your young guys to take over. And then in
yeah,
the East, it's the same kind of trio: Montreal, Ottawa, Detroit. Yeah,
yeah, they're really all cannibalizing each other's wins, so it's hard for them to get too far ahead. But
hmm
they're all making good progress. And yeah, like the Canadians, bottom of the Atlantic Division, they have 19 points. But
oh, I
they're
wouldn't
only
I
they're
wouldn't
only
say
three.
Detroit's making progress. They're,
Well,
if
that's
anything, they're taking a step back.
like the Canadians are only 3 back of the Sens, 4 of the Red Wings, 5 of the Sabres. Like,
Yeah, and then you look at the Sabres; they're only 3 back of the Flyers and Rangers for a wild card spot.
yeah,
Like
like
there's a lot of teams right in it right now.
yeah, there is not, especially for a year where a team started as hot as Winnipeg. There's like no teams pulling away at the top or at the bottom of the standings. Like,
hmm
there's definitely more of a gap. The Wild and the Jets are both at 36 points. That's quite a bit better than the playoff cutoff point of like 28 points in the West. But
Yeah,
this far
yeah,
into the season, I feel like we usually have a bigger gap on either end.
yeah. Oh, and we definitely did last year. Yeah, like we're just seeing a lot more parity in the league. Uh, yeah, it's just a good time for hockey where it's really just exciting. There's no San Jose's of last year, right? Where you've got a team playing and you can kind of already pencil that team in for a win. Like any team is winning on any given night right now. It's just making it more exciting. As it's not as predictable. We're seeing kind of a lot of shakeups in the standings. Like we're seeing the Rangers; they're already 6 points back of Carolina for third in the Metro. Like they're just clinging on to a wild card spot right now as they're scrambling. The Flyers are on a bit of a roll. They've jumped back into a wild card spot now. Uh, like Colorado's out, Calgary's in.
Yeah, like freaking anything can happen. In their last 4 games, the Sharks have 2 7+ goal games. Like against
Team's
in
buzzing.
division rivals. Like
Yeah.
you're not safe from any team in the league. You know, exact same thing over in the East. You got Columbus, they beat Tampa by scoring 7 goals, and then I think they beat the Hurricanes 1 or 2 games later by scoring, I think, 6 or 7. Like,
Yeah.
even these bottom teams against top teams, if you don't show up, they're gonna hang some goals up on you.
Yeah, they're gonna make you pay. They're gonna make you pay. Stepping away from a little, well, can we maybe a little bit of NHL talk? What direction do you want to go in here? Do you want to talk a little bit about the upcoming World Juniors and some news with that, or the Four Nations face-off? Where would you like to start here?
Let's talk about the World Juniors. We were just talking
World
about some
Juniors.
rebuilding teams.
So a lot of countries now are starting to kind of put out their kind of roster, kind of their training camp roster for the upcoming World Juniors. So we're kind of getting a little bit of a sneak peek at what the teams could potentially look like for all of these countries heading into the World Juniors. Team Canada. Oh boy, do we have some stuff to talk about with their decisions once again.
What did they do?
Beckett Seneca, drafted 3rd overall in the 2024 draft. Tija Ginla, drafted 6th overall by Utah in the 2024 draft. Carter Yakimchuk, 7th overall to Ottawa in the 2024 draft. Zane Perrick, 9th overall to the Calgary Flames in the 2024 draft. Michael Hage, 21st overall to Montreal Canadiens 2024 NHL draft. Liam Greentree, 26th overall to the LA Kings in the 2024 NHL draft. And Michael Misa, top prospect projected to be one of the big 4 in the 2025 NHL draft.
Right.
All were not invited to play for Team Canada this year.
Wow. How old can you be before you can't play in the World Juniors anymore?
20.
20. And so most of those guys you listed, the majority
They're
of
all-
them were
they're all
drafted
eligible.
last year.
Yeah.
So they'd be 18, 19?
Yeah. All eligible, all playing back on their junior teams. None of them are currently playing in the NHL. They all have the green light to go, but they were not invited.
Yeah. I was just wondering if a lot of them didn't make it because they picked guys that are older than them, like a year or 2 older. You know, like you think, obviously, you think guys like Tija Ginla are going to be better than some of the guys they picked, but
But do they not
are
learn?
these guys 2 years ahead in their development?
Like that's why they lost last year. Was they were trying to outsmart the system by bringing in some older players, bringing in some kind of role players that are made to play 3rd, 4th line minutes, and they were bad. They were a very, very bad team in the World Juniors last year, and it's starting to look like they might be making that same mistake again.
Yeah, that's rough, dude. Like, that's a lot of good names that you just listed, and
It's a lot of good talent.
One that's particularly shocking that you did mention is Carter Yakimchuk. We saw this guy burn, who is it, Mitch Marner and Morgan Riley as a defenseman to walk in on a breakaway and score an overtime winner in, albeit a preseason, an NHL game.
Yeah, and still an NHL game.
And you don't think in multiple more months of development, you don't think he's good enough to be on the World Juniors team?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know a ton about these players' current skill and and especially the ones that they did pick that I haven't heard of. I don't know where they're at either. But I find it hard to believe that he can't scratch the team.
Yeah, and this isn't even like to just make the team. Like they're not even getting a chance.
Oh, so this is just like the selection camp. This isn't even the final roster either.
like Michael Misa, he's 17 years old. He's projected to go in the top 4 most likely in the 2025 draft. 25 games played for the Saginaw Spirit in the OHL. 25 goals. Goal per game.
Jeez.
24 assists, 49 points. So he's averaging basically a goal and assist per game, plus 21. He doesn't even get a crack at the team.
Yeah, like that's pretty goofy.
Like, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying like any of the guys, like there's a lot of good players that are selected right now to have the chance to represent Canada. Don't get me wrong, it's not a diss at any of these guys, but you're leaving a lot of like really good talent to not even give them a look at making the team.
Yeah, like that. I don't know if they're just trying to big brain it or if they've got some sort of grand plan that they can kind of see, but that that doesn't quite feel right, man. Like I'm really questioning if they know what they're doing. Do you know who makes these picks? Is it like is an entire like board, or is it
Yeah,
like I can't
yeah.
imagine it's one person.
Yeah, no. Yeah, they'd have an entire group collectively come together to try and figure out the best options to go with. Uh, if you're a Flyers fan, though, you live in Canada, good time to be for you because there is 4 Philadelphia Flyers um, that have I think all have a pretty good chance of making this team.
Do you know which ones?
Carson Bjarnson, he's a goaltender. Oliver Bonk, defenseman. He was on the team last year. He would be a returning player. Denver Barkey and Jet Luchenko.
Okay.
So, and again, none of them are for sure guaranteed on the team, but I kind of do expect that all 4 probably make the team.
Yeah, especially Bonk, considering he was on the team last year. Very rarely do you see guys make these teams and then not make them the next year if they're still eligible. Like,
Exactly
you
right.
tell me he was good enough last year, but with a whole nother year of development and experience, like you wouldn't want him. Like,
Yeah.
it would have to be a very stacked young core to push somebody out like that. Unless the guy
Yeah.
obviously showed like major regression, which he hasn't.
Yeah.
But yeah, and like I'm looking at these names. There are a lot of good names on here. Like there are a lot of guys on here that I think are going to be very good. You know, Berkeley Catton, Cole Beaudoin, you know, Braden Yeager, Gavin McKenna is on there, which he's eligible to be drafted in 2026. We're still 2 years from his draft. I
Yeah.
get why he's invited, but is he better right now than a lot of the guys listed?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. But the thing is, I will say this, he is a very good player. He will be a very good player in this tournament.
yeah,
But Canada won't utilize him. It is the same way as their top player last year, Celebrini. What was he? He was a third liner. I think he even had stints on the fourth line. Wasn't on the top power play unit. Like Gavin McKenna, honestly, probably assuming he does make the team, will be the best player on Team Canada. But he won't be treated like it. They won't utilize
interesting.
him to his strengths, like they did with a Connor Bedard, where he was out there what felt like every second shift, basically
Yeah,
during his tournament. Um,
they
yeah,
need
like
they
like
need
Gavin
young.
McKenna should be on this team, and he should make this team.
I feel like Team Canada often has like these older coaches, and I feel like especially for the World Juniors, you kind of need like a hip young coach who knows how to make those adjustments. Like you need a guy who can, it it feels like they always have a lot of coaches that are not okay being wrong, and that if something went wrong, it was probably somebody else's fault. Like
Mm,
we need some of these guys that are like, okay, I didn't realize this guy was going to be really good, so I'm now moving him from the third to the top line. Like it feels like a lot of old hockey guys kind of get their fingers in there a lot. And like, I was just taking a look at some of the stats of guys that you said didn't make the team. Uh, Last night, Beckett Seneca played a game for his the Oshawa Generals in the OHL. He had 4 goals, 6 points on the night last night.
Yeah.
You don't want this guy? You don't want this guy representing us? Like, come on, man. Like,
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it just doesn't. Some of these don't make sense, but I guess we'll see how it plays out.
yeah. It looks like a lot of them were drafted in 2023. So I'm wondering if they just want to go older.
Which is kind of my guess. Like, it makes the most sense for
Yeah. Do you
why it
have
would be
happen
that
to
way.
have who are some of the defensemen that didn't make it?
Zane Perrick, which I believe he's still currently suspended in the OHL, if I'm not mistaken. He has 30 points in 22 games, so not as great as as his numbers were last year. Yakimchuk, he has 23 points in 20 games with the Hitmen. I think those were kind of the two big defensemen, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. I am interested. I'm currently looking up their height, which I am only getting in meters. But because just looking at the team, one thing I noticed, as soon as you get to the defensemen, every single defenseman that they invited is 6 foot or taller. They have not invited a single 5'11" or shorter defenseman.
And Carter Yakimchuk is 6'3". Zane Perrick, he. I mean, he's still 6 foot tall, so
He's still
still
six
makes the
foot.
cut.
Okay. I was ready to be very annoyed if I looked it up and they were shorter, and they just had some boomer GM being like, "You can't have short defensemen. You just can't."
Yeah, Quinn Hughes would beg to differ, although I don't think he's as small as people make him out to be. But yeah, for
I think he's
Canada,
5. I think he's 5'11". One of those guys that like as soon as it's 5'11", it's now you're a short king.
yeah. But we'll wait and see what the final rosters end up being for these teams, and we can kind of
Yeah.
dissect them a little bit
On
further.
on elite prospects, just to throw this out there before we move on. Basically all the guys you just listed are all the top guys on the trending player list. Like the top trending players on elite prospects: Beckett Seneca, T.J. Ginla, Gavin McKenna, Carter Yakimchuk, Zane Perek, Michael Misa. Like it's
Yeah,
literally just all the guys you listed.
yeah, all the guys that just aren't well, and I guess for Canada aren't good enough to make
Yeah.
the cut.
I just can't believe that this isn't even the final roster. And like they're not even giving them the chance to prove it.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, right.
that's weird.
Moving on from the World Juniors, moving on over to the other tournament that will take place in 2025, the Four Nations Faceoff. The NHL announced that the rosters will be announced on Wednesday, so the day after all of you are listening to this. Yeah,
Those
the NHL did not
are those
want
final?
anything.
Probably
Yeah,
not.
yep. The roster. It sounds like the
Oh,
rosters were announced or were made official. I think yesterday or today, and they'll be
interesting.
announced on Wednesday. And so here's the thing: all of the big reporters and whatnot, because this is done through the NHL and the NHLPA, so they have all the say. They told all of these reporters, like these big name guys that always want to be the first to break stories, you
Yeah.
cannot leak anything. The NHL wants to have the opportunity to kind of release this and have it be a big thing because it's kind of their first crack at doing something like this, and they don't need a Frank Saravelli, going out there and just leaking all the rosters the night before or something, just to say, "Hey, I did it first," type of thing, right?
Yeah.
Uh, I said Frank Saravelli because he leaked the entire expansion draft. Um, but there was, I guess, a lot of initial talks around between the league and the GMs and the coaches of the four countries about not telling the players that they made the team until Wednesday when they announced it all, because they were really worried about stuff getting leaked. But they decided to tell the players anyways, and we got some leaks already.
Interesting. I have not
Only
seen any of
three.
this.
Only three. This comes from because I guess it was announced during one of the team's practices, and a reporter kind of caught it, and all the players going over and celebrating these guys and getting them pats on the backs. We are going back to Philadelphia. Again,
Oh,
this isn't official, but it sounds like they got 3 guys that are going.
damn! They got 3 in there. Okay.
Rasmus Ristolainen, which
Okay.
kind of assumed with how awful Finland's defensive core will be outside their top 2.
Yeah.
Travis
Comparative to
Konechny
for sure. I
sounds like he will
thought
be going for Canada, which I'm very happy for. I think he's definitely earned it based on his play this season.
Yeah.
And Travis Sanheim sounds like he will be one of Canada's defensemen, which
he's Canadian.
Which means there's going to be a big name left off this list for sure. Then for Canada, if
Dude,
Travis Sanheim,
I don't think I mentioned
spots.
him in mine.
I did.
I don't think I mentioned like 9 guys when you get to play 6 defensemen. Like, because I had a couple honorable mentions. I don't think I had him in my top 10.
And it's not to say Sanheim's a bad, like he's a terrific defenseman, great player, great dude, but there's just so many other guys, especially for Canada. Of all, like if he was Swedish, Finnish, he would be on that team and no one would question it.
I didn't know where he was from. That's what I expected. Once you said Sanheim, I was like, oh, he must be Swedish. Good for him or something like that. The fact that he's making Canada's is crazy because like, who were the guys that I had in like that 8 or 9 spot? Mackenzie Weegar, Noah Dobson, like
Pietrangelo.
Like actually, like those are like Travis.
And again, this isn't 100% confirmed, but considering that this Flyers reporter said that the 3 of them were getting cheers and pats on the back, kind of makes it sound. It really does sound like they kind of got told.
It would be really funny
that they're going to be going.
If Sanheim was like, guys, just start hyping me up. Let's start some rumors.
Yeah, and I would love that. That would be the perfect Philly thing, and for that alone, I would put Sanheim on the team if he came up with that. For that reason alone,
when who was it? Was it Johnny Gaudreau who on trade deadline day purposefully went and took like a 20-minute shit right before the deadline? He went and just left the ice.
Yeah, he did left the ice. Yeah, you are right, actually.
Which is honestly so good.
So again, it's not 100% confirmed, but it kind of sounds like those 3 are going to be representing their countries. And you know what? They're all good picks.
He definitely deserves it.
Does he ever, man?
His
play alone this season,
but he's also very good.
Yeah. And I think we kind of talked about Konechny a bit, about how he could be a guy that could could kind of force himself onto that team with how good he's been playing.
Yeah. Travis Sanheim, 15 points in 25 games on the blue line. Like, he's cooking over in Philly, so like it definitely makes sense.
And he had a terrific year last year as well.
Yeah. I do wonder if whoever puts together Team Canada is regretting announcing Marchand to the team so early. Because there's a lot of guys that are like having that typical, like very back when the Olympics was happening of like, it's Olympics year. All these guys that were on the edge, they're like performing like crazy. They want on this team. Marchand's having a little bit of a down year by his standards. I mean, he's 36 years old and the Bruins are having a down year. So, I'm not putting that solely on him, but I wouldn't be shocked if he made it, even if he wasn't announced, but I don't think he's not on the level of McDavid or Point, where it's like, we know this guy's on the team.
Yeah. Yeah, but, yeah. It's so tough, right? Because, like, there's a thing about should Connor Bedard be on the team? Because, he's admittedly not been having a great season by his standards. Like, yeah. But again, if you take a guy like Marchand, you throw him on, even if it's like the third line, the talent that's going to be there, he's going to be such an effective player. for the team. Maybe he's not going to be in the top 6 like they were kind of hoping originally. Like maybe you can't put him with Crosby and McKinnon or something
Yeah, I kind of
because
hope they
he's just kind
don't.
of regressed. I think you're kind of more forced to, like, if your fourth line is uh it doesn't even matter. Throw whoever you want at center, but on your fourth line, if your wingers are Marchand and Konechny,
Yeah,
that's a fun line, and that's a
like that's really nice.
forechecking, just from hell line right there. That's just going to be out there to just they're probably going to tuck a few, but they're also just going to create chaos and just piss off the other team and have fun doing it. Like they're going to have the time of their lives, getting to do that type of shit. So I still like Marchand on the team. It's unfortunate that the season is not necessarily going the way for him that you know, we're hoping. Didn't expect it to drop this much, but I would still have him on Canada because I think he can still be a very effective player, especially
Yeah,
having just more elevated talent around him too.
yeah. I just think they have. There's obviously the guys that would be higher in him than him in the lineup that have more skill right now, and then there's guys with very comparable skill who would, I think, be a lot more aggressive that you could put in the bottom 6. Those guys that they know damn well that they're fringe cases at most for the team, that they would they would just have that dog in them every shift.
Mhm. Yeah, like
But
if you're
I
sitting
don't
there
think it's
like
going to drag the team down by any
if
means.
it's like picking someone for the third line. And it's like, would you rather have a Stamkos or a Barzell or a Marchand? I'd probably take either Barzell or Stamkos. But it's like, hey, for a fourth line winger, would you rather have Stamkos, Barzell, Marchand? I'd probably pick Marchand just because I just think
Yeah,
he can be such an effective player in that role, especially I think playing with a guy like Konechny, who, you know, in certain areas kind of does remind me a bit of Marchand. Like,
yeah.
but again, I think we kind of do have to be like, Marchand's not going to be a top 6 winger. He's probably not going to be.
I hope
He
not.
probably doesn't even get power play time. He'll probably get penalty kill time, which I think is
Oh
totally
yeah,
fine for him. Um,
and
but yeah,
well he should. Like
he's
not a
just,
lot of
it's
guys have
just
scored more shorthanded goals than him.
yeah, he's
Uh,
just not going to be the player that we are hoping we are going to get for this tournament. It's kind of
yeah,
looking like, unfortunately.
and I already at the start of the season had my doubts. Now I really do. If they decide to run back that McKinnon, Crosby, Marchand line, like those guys are so good at skating. Marchand,
Oh no, it was Bergeron, Crosby,
oh,
and
it
Marchand.
was Bergeron. It was
But people are
Bergeron.
just kind of
Yes,
assuming it'd be
you'll
McKinnon now,
replace him
and
with
they
another
kind of have
Nova Scotian.
the yeah, exactly.
It's a fun idea, but like,
I just don't see it happening now.
yeah,
I'd
you
love to
could
see
just make better
McKinnon and
lines.
Crosby, and then you can throw whoever else there. But
Yeah,
I think at this point now, again, as much as I love Marchand, I do think he's a terrific player, and all that. I think he kind of pull like weighs that line down a bit.
yeah,
But
yeah. You have to be
if
able to
if they
keep up.
if they
Like
go
that's
with it, I'm not going to be upset because I think he can still be an effective player with them, with the two of them. Like I think you could throw any player with them, and they're going to do just fine.
yeah.
But I think at this point in time now, I just think there's better players you could put with those
They're good
two
enough
that'd
players
be
that
more
you don't
effective.
want fine. You want to put a guy with them that makes him a three-headed dragon that can steal a game
Exactly.
at a notice. Like,
Exactly. Because you could throw whoever you want with McDavid, sorry. Like and that line will be unreal, like top notch. And then if you got a great second line with, McKinnon and Crosby, if that's what they do, like you could have a deadly top 6.
yeah,
And I just don't think Marchand fits the bill anymore to be part of a deadly top 6 in
yeah,
something like this. Which sucks. But it is what it is. Players get older, game gets faster. You know,
yeah, yeah.
father time
You
catches
gotta make
catches
room for the
everyone at
new
some
age
point. So
eventually.
yeah.
Were there any other ones that were leaked?
No, those are the only ones I've seen so far.
All right, because
So
I had not heard about any of that. So yeah, I
yeah,
mean
I only
Travis
saw
Sanheim
that.
again is just crazy, like unexpected for me. But
Yeah, yeah,
he
right.
has had a very good season, and they might be looking to deploy him in a very specific way as well.
Yeah, yeah. I was just looking through. Yeah, I don't see anything. At the moment, again, I don't expect there to be a bunch because, like, I know they were really trying to make sure that nothing got leaked, and it looks like just one reporter happened to catch a moment during Flyers practice. But hey, you know
Yeah,
what? If all three of them, I assume Ristolainen for sure
yeah,
made Finland because like
100%.
they have no one else to go with. Um, and I think Konechny earned his spot, and if they think Sanheim fits the bill, okay, I'm not going to argue with that. I think he's still a fantastic player. It's just a surprise pick for me.
Yeah.
Not that he doesn't deserve it. It's just very shocking that.
But I guess
Final prediction: does
until
Bouchard make the
Wednesday,
team? Yeah, we'll find out on Wednesday. So, final prediction: is Evan Bouchard on Team Canada? That's kind of the biggest one people are talking about
I think
is
he
whether or not he
probably.
ends up on the team.
I mean, I think he probably is.
I
I
think he
think
does too.
I think they're gonna put him on there. Do I think he should be on the team? No. They've got plenty of offensive weapons. Uh, they don't they don't need another guy who's only offense and no defense.
Yeah.
You can just as easy replace him with a Mackenzie Weegar or something, or a Alex Petrangelo, who is very good offensively and still very responsible on their own end. Like,
Yeah. That's exactly what I'm thinking. Like, I think just because of what he did last year, and he's a terrific player, but I think he does kind of get that McDavid and Draisaitl boost, having the luxury of playing with them, and not that like that's Bouchard's fault or anything, but like that's just kind of something that you have to take into consideration. Uh, he still makes the team.
yeah,
I don't. I personally wouldn't, just because I think you broke it down perfectly. Um, that for why there's other guys that just make more sense, but I think they still go with Bouchard anyways. It'd be interesting to see how he fares out there, uh, in something like that,
but
where all eyes are on you at all times.
yeah,
There's only one game taking place at a time, so every NHL fan is all watching one collective game at a time. So if you make a mistake, everybody's gonna know. Even Phil Kessel.
even Phil Kessel, dude.
Even Phil Kessel sitting at home on the couch, wondering if there's something else he could be doing. He's gonna know. He's gonna see.
Um,
All right, let's move
but
on.
I think that's all we got for the Four Nations face off until next episode, where I'm sure we'll be going over the entirety of
The entirety of the rosters. Yeah, can't
all
wait.
four rosters.
Can't
That's
wait.
going to be very exciting. I think we just have the two other things listed here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll start with this one because there's not a huge amount to go over with it, but both Austin Matthews and Matthew Nyes returned the other night for Toronto. The Leafs got their star center back. They have been doing just fine without him. They are,
He's got William Nylander.
yeah,
He's
they're
Is it crazy to say
8-2-0.
Nylander's the Toronto's best player?
It's still Matthews.
Dude, Nylander's just carries his team, man.
He's really good. Like, they haven't had Matthews for a while, and they're 8-2-0 in their last 10. They're
Yeah.
they're 1 point back of leading the Atlantic, but they have 2 games in hand on the Panthers, who are like they're crushing it right now. So the
And
fact
it's
that they're
really
doing that
getting done by
without a
their
former
top
Hart
guys
Trophy
too.
winner and Matthew
Yeah.
Nyes just coming back, who is a very effective player for them as well. Yeah, like by the end of the season, I would not be shocked if this team was challenging for the Hart Trophy or the President's Trophy rather.
And they've been getting solid goaltending as well,
Yeah,
which
very solid
is
goaltending.
something that Toronto's not very used to. So when your top players are all buzzing right now, the guys that are taking all your money are buzzing, and you're getting solid goaltending. Like they're a good team, and getting two guys that are staples in their top six back is just even better for them, and just makes their team that much more deeper now again.
Yeah. And the only other thing we have here is Jeff Skinner on the Oilers was fined $2,000 earlier today for embellishment. It looks like he had a warning for diving/embellishment in a game back in October against the Hurricanes, which is kind of funny. It happens against the Hurricanes because they have a couple players a little notorious for diving as well.
Yeah.
And against the Rangers on Monday, yeah, I didn't even see the clip of it, but I mean, how bad does it have to be that you've gotten your second warning, which ended up in a fine?
Yeah, his stick kind of got caught on his feet and he fell. And I see people being like, "Oh, that's just give him a 2-minute penalty," and like that's insane to fine a player for. It's like, yeah, but the league's trying to actually set a precedent of like, if you're gonna be embellishing, you're gonna be getting fines, and if you're getting fines, it could lead to suspensions down the road, which I'm all for. Like I'm all for if you get lightly, touching the stick doesn't even hit your face and you flop back and roll around and cover your face, draw a penalty. I'm fine if you get slapped with a 1-game suspension.
Yeah,
It sounds dumb, but if it takes embellishment out of the game,
it's so easy to
I'm
not
all for
embellish.
it.
You have to go out of your way to do it every time. Like
It's
the whole
also
point
just
is that nothing
embarrassing,
bad
like
happened and you're freaking out. So
it's also just embarrassing to watch a player like in real time when the game's happening. A stick flies up and they grab their face and they do the whole whip back, and then they're slowly getting up and like yelling at the other team or the refs or something. But then you see the replay and the stick didn't even touch their face, and it's like
yeah,
you just pulled all that shit. Like it's just embarrassing. For the player, like to look back at that and be like, come on, man, like have some more respect for the game. Like if your team's that shit that you need to do that shit to get a power play, okay, then but then have the balls to own up to it then. Like so if they start throwing out these fines and again, even maybe suspension is down the road,
yeah.
I'm all for it.
$2,000
And
fine, by the way. Like
yeah.
we constantly complain that the maximum allowable under the CBA fine of $5,000, this is less than half of that. That's not enough. So
I'm
like
curious if he embellishes again, like is the fine gonna bump up? And if it does, like does it go straight to the max? Do they just bump it up to 3? Like I'd be kind of curious to see the
yeah,
levels it goes to, because he got a warning. Now 2,000. I'm very curious. I hope he embellishes one more time. Just because I want to know what it's gonna get to.
I
Just one more
imagine it's
time.
one game or 5,000 the next time, but I'm not sure.
They've never suspended a player for embellishment. I don't think. I don't think there's ever been
Oh
one.
really?
I'd be
I
curious
mean,
to
I
see,
guess it
like,
isn't.
I'd be curious, yeah, if does it just go straight from 2,000, just like boom, 1 game
I wouldn't
sussy?
doubt
That
it.
would be awesome. That
The
would be
refs
so awesome.
hate when players make them look stupid. They
Oh
hate that
yeah,
shit. And I
yeah, because
completely
you
agree
got
with what you
tricked
said.
by him. You got gooned by him. Like
I completely agree with what you said about players like when it doesn't hit them and they're like, trying to draw a penalty, obviously, and all that. I will say, every once in a while, I will see a clip where a stick comes up and it hits the guy, and people will be like, "Look how he's embellishing! Like it didn't hit him that hard." And I hate that shit,
mhm.
dude. It does. A stick can be going really fucking slow. It's carbon fiber. If it hits you in the face, your face is not meant to get hit by stuff. Like,
Yeah.
bro, if you get hit like gently on the end of your nose, it freaking hurts. Like,
It's also like
I
people
hate
act
seeing
like
guys
it's
get
not.
caught up top and everyone's like, "Oh, come on, it wasn't that bad." It's like I would be snapping my head back too. Holy shit.
Yeah, people act like if people sit there, if you walk up and you're a stranger to them, you throw a punch at them, you're not actually going to hit them, but you pretend to, they're going to flinch and be like, why are you flinching? Like it's like, because when shit's coming at your face, especially with the force that sticks are coming up at their faces with, yeah, your
Yeah.
reaction is to kind of protect yourself and cover your face and try and, but it's the ones where it like hits their shoulder, like just doesn't even hit their face, and they're like,
Yeah.
not only do they react, but then they're trying to make it seem like they got hit. It's like
When they draw it out
that shit's
afterwards as
bad.
well. That's
Yeah.
when it gets bad.
And yeah,
Yeah,
you're right. The
I
refs
just
hate that. Like
yeah
they'll see it
they
after the game and be like, "All right, well, we'll remember that for
the
next game."
refs take a number. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, we've seen
and
it
good
with
for them.
plenty of guys before, like uh, what's his name on Pittsburgh, played for the Leafs. That guy, that guy's shit disturber. Leafs, Hurricanes, Penguins.
Hmm? Oh, Bunting.
Michael Bunting, thank you. I was just googling the
Mister, the
rest.
ref pushed me down. The ref hurt my feelings. I have a boo-boo. Yeah, well, don't fucking embellish. The ref won't have to ragdoll you. Speaking of refs, did you see that ref eat that left hook from Arbor Jack guy the other day?
I did not.
Yeah, linesman was trying to break up a scrum, and Jack guy just socked him right in the chin. I'll have to find the video and send it to you.
Arbor, did he get a misconduct for it? If he hit
Um,
the ref?
I'm not sure actually. I didn't look if he got a penalty. Look, it was against the Bruins yesterday. It was during like him and Casta like were getting into it. Yeah, it's tough to say. No, not really. Him and Casta like both got 2 minutes for roughing and 10-minute misconducts, and there hasn't been anything out about any disciplinary towards him. So yeah, it's just wild to
Yeah,
see refs just get socked like that.
yeah,
Doesn't happen
dude.
very often.
It does not. And wasn't it earlier this season where somebody accidentally high stick the ref because they tried to knock somebody else's stick away like in front of the net after the play?
Oh no, he slashed down on the ref's hand. I'm pretty sure, or his arm or something.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I
I
can't
found the
remember
video. I
what.
just saw that.
I can't remember what
Dude,
it was.
what dude? Jack Eye, come on, man. Dude, what an idiot.
Yeah,
Come
and
on.
apparently, because I
Like
know, I know.
it wasn't like a straight punch to the ref. Obviously he's not trying to. Whoever he's fighting with there, Trent Frederick kind of looks like he's trying to
Catholic.
punch around the ref. Yeah, Castellic. But like, dude, what are you, Slender Man? You can't just reach around people. And the ref is actively trying
Actually,
to block your punches. That's the whole point of him being there. He's
yeah,
trying to get in between. So, like, if you don't have the lane for the punch, don't go for it, man. Don't risk
yeah.
don't risk punching a
Don't
referee.
pull a Dennis Weidman and a linesman's career just because you're pissed off.
Yeah. And that's the last thing he wants to do because I like to think he would feel shitty about it. But also, you do not want the refs uh, against you the same way that they were against the Flames after that.
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
Anywho, I believe that wraps up everything we got here. Correct?
yes, I was just looking up one last thing here.
Looking up one last thing. All right. Well, I
I
guess a
can.
little preview for Friday's episode. So imagine, unless there's some groundbreaking news around the league, we'll obviously cover that. But I gotta imagine a good majority of that will be focusing more on the official rosters for the Four Nations Faceoff. Once we have the official rosters for all of the participating countries, all four of them. Yeah, so we have that to look forward to for Friday's one. All right, Braden, what'd you find?
Um, I'm trying to sort it properly. I'm currently on NHLRecords.com. Oh my god, they only have it sorted by games. What website would you go to look at penalty differential?
Oof. Yeah, I don't even know.
All right, I'll look it up for the next episode then, because I'm not going to find it quickly.
All right, so we're focusing on penalty differential as well.
Yeah, because I do want to talk
episode.
about that for the Flames after the Chris Weidman incident. It is
Oh
like
yeah,
the numbers are staggering, and there's like a 10-year period of history to show like you can see the moment it changed. So like it's
Mhm.
just looking at the stats is very interesting surrounding that incident. So I will do my homework and bring that up on the next podcast.
Sounds good. Well, that wraps up everything we got for this episode. We do thank all of you once again for tuning in to another episode of the Stick 'em Up podcast. You want to talk hockey with us? Want to let us know some of your last minute predictions for the Four Nations Faceoff roster? You can do so by going to any of our socials. They are down all below in the description of whatever platform you are listening to this podcast on. Braden, as always, one final thought before we get out of here.
Congrats to Travis Sanheim, man. I did not expect him to make the team, but you know what? And who knows? Maybe we'll see some other like completely out of left field picks. Like who knows who's going to be on this team? You know,
Yeah, I'm excited. It's
people are saying Zach Hyman was a lock, but then how could he be on the team? Like there's guys like that we have as fringe guys, but I don't think anybody had Travis Sanheim written down.
no.
So
Yeah, the door is wide open for lots of crazy choice for this team. We are looking forward to finding it out, and we are looking forward to talking about it on the next episode. Once again, we hope you guys enjoyed, and we'll see you guys out on the ice this Friday.